rising and showing. Every time we gather up, you see us growing. Bad time, baby, move suits when we rolling. Walking straight in every path as if we bowling. And I'm we trusting, we think no room for holding. Power don't play, we ain't joking. Feel the realness in my voice when it's spoken. Every day my friends are being sold and somebody's broken. That's what you get when you left open. Vulnerable to it when you left open. After hours, I'm sorry but we closing. Get rid of it, perish the parasite. And I wish you would like a termite. So what you gonna do? Fight or flight? Pass all the obstacles and continue with my life.
I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray.
After every dark tunnel, there is some light. Traveling through it, got you saying this is some life. Can't count on your words like singing on karaoke mics. You couldn't walk a mile in my blue nights. You can fall off the path and lose sight. Every day making my way to reach new heights. Can't do nothing about the circumstance of yesterday. Just preparing the road leading to a better way. Home sweet home is where you wanna stay. Protected from the madness of today. It don't make it no better when they threatening to take it all away. Bottle all my emotions up and throw it all away in front to show them how we don't play. So don't be smiling in my face. Every day bloodlines being erased. For goodness sakes, so tell me, do you got what it takes?
I gotta keep moving. Let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray.
Follow the image of my descendants on the path that's continuous, never ending, like a new beginning, consistently walking into the next. Shit that old, if it hinders the evolution, then let it go. We have the total control, dictate what you say and where you go. The leaders of the next world, because this one is ending. Let's be real, no more pretending. Everything that okay, just sugarcoat it. You believe everything they say when you quote it. You learned it from school, now you think you know it. It's educated from the start. And will dismantle your mind apart. Leave you in the dark about who you are and where you're going. Existing in life, not never knowing. Your mind not growing. It's limited, real ignorant. Since birth, they've been trying to put an end to it.
I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way.
All right. All right. I Mighty Talks. We live again. All right. I know everybody looking at me with the feathered headdress on. Y'all saw see me in pictures with it. I'm going to explain this. That's why I said I put it on to explain it. And but pretty much, I wanted to do it because I didn't see people, making comments about it. I heard people talk, oh, you've been on this Indian thing and whatnot. And, what happened to MENTELLECT. I'm going to go into all that today. Excuse us for the delay, but, we had a little technical issues and whatnot. We got it together. Before we start off, I like to know everybody think about my my headpiece. Huh? Good? Huh? Everybody think of the headpiece? All right. The feathered headpiece. All right. People's calling this a war bonnet. But there's no way people's fighting wars in this. This is more of a celebratory feathered crown. Just because you've seen people doing that, because most of the time when they show you the so-called Indian movies, they usually have like one band around their head, maybe a feather. Rarely do you see people wearing these feathered head crowns, because this is meant to be a crown of status for the chief. Okay? And this is from our people. This is from our people. One of my wives Googled Indian feathered headdress, and the picture came up with a bronze person wearing the feathered headdress. Again, this is a chief's feathered headdress, which I'm going to get into. Before I go even deeper in this, we got to start off in the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord. In Amen we trust. In Amen we think. And in Amen we continue forward forever. I'm Nuben Menkares, the intellectual Nuben Menkares, and this is High and Mighty Talks. And, we doing what we do. getting a little high and having some mighty talks. And I'm going to touch on a few things I missed touching on, but I might as well address the 800-pound elephant in the room, which is my feathered head crown. Again, the so-called Native Americans have appropriated this feathered head crown from our people, the Mayans. This goes back to the Mayans, the Aztec. You will see them, our people, with the feathered head crown on. Okay? This is not a war bonnet. Stop referring to this as a war bonnet. This is a feathered head crown, a serpent feathered head crown. Okay? Again, going back to our Mesoamerican ancestry. People have been hitting me up talking about, oh, Newman, what you listening to Dane Calloway now and you on the Indian thing and this, that, and the third and blah, blah, blah. And I heard somebody say that in one of the MENTELLECT Patreons. They're like, oh, Newman, you on this Indian thing? What Indian thing? This is our culture. This is really our ancient culture and heritage. Going back to the Mesoamericans, you'll see me at one point wearing an Olmec helmet on my head. I'll have an Olmec metal crown on my head soon. I'm just representing all of our ethnic American culture and heritage. And this is it right here. Now, I suppose if I would have came on here wearing a dashiki or one of them gaylays or one of them stupid kufis on my head or whatever, I came with a damn beard all over my face, nobody would have had a problem with that. Everybody would be like, oh, all right, to the average people, because you're programmed to believe that. But when you see a bronze man, a copper-colored man wearing his real ceremonial ritualistic headdress, which is the feathered head crown, right, which goes to the Mayans and all these other people, again, they were the first ones wearing it. And the so-called Native Americans, the Mongoloid Native Americans, I only call them Indians, the Mongoloid Asian Native Americans, they will be the first to tell you or try to link into our Mesoamerican heritage, because they know this is where the feathered head crowns come from. This is where a lot of their so-called Native American culture is ripped off from Mesoamerican culture, which was first our culture. And then people try to, like anything, people like certain things, so they start to appropriate certain things. People start to appropriate certain things, meaning steal certain things, take certain things, influenced by certain things. There's so many influences as to how the so-called Mongoloid Indians, the Asian Mongoloid Native Americans, I'm gonna call them that, right? Because we're the only real American Indians, us, or the American indigenous people. And this is our head crown, again, from our Mayan ancestors, the feathered head crown. If you look at this, it looks more natural on me, doesn't it? Let's just keep it real. Don't this headdress look more natural on me? It looks more natural on me than it do on them. When they wear it, it look like they're wearing costumes. When I wear it, it looks like it's real, don't it? And I noticed this upon putting this on my head, it felt natural. That's the crazy thing about it. When I put this on my head, it felt natural. It didn't feel like it was some costume, like when you see the Caucasians wearing it, when you see the Mongoloid Native Americans wearing it. It literally looks like a costume. When we wear it, it has meaning to it. It has meaning to it when we wear it, you see. And like I said, I'm going to have my people put these head crowns on, you see, and wear them on at certain points. But we're not going to be making a big thing of wearing them all the time. You're not going to be seeing this at our gatherings wearing it. I just put it on just to represent, to show that, yes, we are in touch with our ethnic American roots. We are in touch with our ethnic American roots. And this is the ethnicity, this culture, this American Indian culture or American indigenous culture is ours. It belongs to us, the copper-colored races or the bronze races of America. This is our headdress. And the Mongoloid Indians who crossed the Bering Straits, who are Asians, like I said, they admitted it, and they are under the title of Native American, not American Indian, Native American. They're under that title now because if you notice in the census and all these other things where you're filling out stuff, the Caucasians who make up these things, they don't like to use the word American Indian no more for a reason. They don't really like using the word American Indian. They switched it out with Native American. And they like to switch out meanings and switch out and classify things, because when you are able to classify things and people and whatnot, it's a form of you taking ownership over those people or mastering these type of people, you see. So just like when I said with the word American is from us, from our Mayan language. Factually, it's not from Amerigo Vespucci, it's from us. Now the word African, that's from the Caucasians. African is from the Caucasians, okay? Not the word American, which is from the Mayans, from our people. Indigenous or indigenous or what's the word I want to say? I don't like to use the word native. I like the word indigenous or people who are ethnically linked to this land. We wore these head crowns as a connection to the Mayan ancestry, to the Mesoamerican ancestry. Again, this represented serpent crown or the feathered crown. These feathers are wild turkey. This is wild turkey feathers. Now, again, I brought this out. We was the ones, so-called bronze people were the ones, or so-called black people, ethnic American people. We were the ones in America hunting wild turkey and eating wild turkey and bison and buffalo, things like that. We were eating these meats and whatnot. You know, again, I pointed it out. Notice you don't see turkey or wild turkey, anything really sold or cooked, anything here in this in America. The funny thing is about that, you know, the restaurant that you see people doing the turkey with is the turkey leg hut, which is so-called black people. Ain't that funny? Where all the so-called Mongoloid Indians who've been hunting turkey and buffalo, where's their Native American restaurants at where they serving bison and turkey? Why is it that our people are doing the turkey leg huts and things like that? You don't even really see Caucasians cooking turkey like that. The only time they'll have turkey is like on Thanksgiving. But we're the turkey wing kings and queens and whatnot. We eat turkey on the regular because that's what we did when we were here in America. And yes, we did take the feathers because we believed in using every part of the animal or whatever we ate or took. So yeah, we took the feathers off of the wild turkey. And these are truly wild turkey feathers. These are really wild, genuine turkey feathers. All right, from the wild turkey. This is not no fake or false feathers. These are real turkey feathers. All right. And if you look at how this spreads open like this, it looks almost like a fan, like how you see the so-called black woman today, when she flipped the fan open and whatnot, she'll be doing this. That's how these things flip open. And if you also look on the on the thing where here's the braids, this is braided. These are braided feathers at the end. And I pointed out that this looks like how a lot of so-called black women, bronze women, will braid their hair and leave the tips open. It looks the same way. And also, this underneath is like a kufi or a yarmulke on top of my head. And if you look at the size of the feathers right here, this looks like the locks that the Caucasian Jews wear that's attached to the kufi that has their feathers attached, sewn onto it. But this is like a yarmulke / kufi with the locks on the sides just using feathers. That's no coincidence. So this headdress has way more to do with our people than people sitting up here. The most they could call this is a war bonnet. I want you to logically, who would fight in this? Nobody would fight in this. You see, when you lean forward, I gotta sit a certain way. This is purely for decoration, for what's the word I want to say? For decoration. This is for basically honoring a chief. You see, you could tell this took a lot to make. So you didn't see just common people wearing this. You didn't just see regular people wearing this. When you saw somebody wearing it, it was truly the chief, the leader. This was a honor that was bestowed upon the chief to wear this feathered head crown. This was not a war bonnet. You can't fight in this. Okay? So stop calling it that. Stop listening to the so-called Mongoloid Native Americans tell you what this is, because they're always good at trying to take something that is not theirs, and just people in general, culture vultures, and try to make it and give it their own personal meaning. But you could tell, you could look at the richness of this, which again, you could tell so-called black women, bronze women made this. Ain't no Mongoloid women made this. Women made this. You could tell so-called black women made this, aka bronze, copper-colored women made this. You see, because our women are the only ones who have that artistic mindset to take things, design, and take feathers. Like I said, you'll see bronze women. Ain't nothing for you to see feathers hanging from their ears, especially in the 70s. They had their afros out, or they natural, excuse me, and they had the feathers hanging from their ears and had feathered earrings. So we're very much attached to the feathers. And the feathers denote what? Feathers denote flight. Okay? Feathers denote flight. As in something in flight, a bird in flight. You notice we had the American eagle, the golden eagle. We had that. And like I said, this is where the Caucasian got the whole thing of making the eagle their bird. You see, making the eagle their bird. You see, this looks more natural on me than it does on all these other people, on the Mongoloid Indians or the Caucasians. With them, it is truly a costume. With us, you could tell this is something that has a real connection to us. This has a real connection. All right. And again, for you people who say that, you know, oh, are you still doing? Of course, this is all driven by MENTELLECT. So part of the intellective transmission is that we know everything about our history. And too much of our history was wasted believing that we came from Africa on slave ships. Now you'll get some idiots out here talking about we appropriating the so-called Indian culture or Native American culture. No, we are not. No, we are not. They appropriated our culture. The same way a lot of these Latinos are trying to appropriate hip hop right now. It's the same thing. Same thing. Sister Enron Vanzetta brought out, shout out to Sister Enron Vanzetta, Ethnic American Channel. She brought out that, you know, a lot of the Asians who came over here with slaves, they married with the indigenous Indian women, which was bronze women, because they called them American or Indian women, bronze women. And again, if you go back into the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of an American, you see it's the copper-colored races. So what were the copper-colored races? What were the copper-colored races? What kind of heritage or culture would the copper-colored races be having, the indigenous people of this land? It would be American Indian culture. See, y'all got to get your mind out of believing that the American Indian is Mongoloid. Y'all got to get your mind out of that. That's pure propaganda. That is pure propaganda that the American Indians are not black people, so-called black. In fact, this is why we were made black people, to hide our American Indian culture. To hide our American Indian culture, which is our Mesoamerican culture. Again, I call it American Indian / Mesoamerican culture because, like I said, this goes back to the Mayans, the Aztec. You can look in all of their pictures, these bronze people with feathered head crowns, wearing feathered head crowns, going all the way back to the Aztec and the Mayan and all these other people. So when you hear people sitting up here talking about we copying somebody's heritage, I say, okay, well, what is our heritage? The Pan-Africanism of Africa? No, it is not. The Africans will let you know we're not African. So we are, in fact, and that's factual. That's not even a doubt anymore who we are. If we are, which we are, the indigenous people of this continent of America, the whole continent of America, we are indigenous to. From the islands of Jamaica, Haiti, or West Indies, to the Central America, Mexico, South America, all Canada, all in North America, all of this South America, Yucatan. This is all our land. The continent of America is the land of the copper-colored races, aka the bronze men and bronze women. This is our continent. And everything in it is ours. Well, the whole world, but just especially this is our headquarters, like I said before. And it has already been proven that the first people in the Americas were the bronze copper-colored people, so-called black people. And they've shown their faces and everything else. After that, there's no more argument. What were they wearing? What culture were they representing when they were here as the indigenous people? What culture was they representing? I don't hear about nothing else. It had to be this. It had to be this. And you could find pictures where they were depicting the American Indians as bronze people at one time. They depicted us in all of their, going all the way back, they was depicting us as bronze people. And they showed us wearing these feathered head crowns. Certain people who were chiefs or whatnot, who they referred to as the wild Indians or wild indigenous people. And then you had your civilized, which they considered civilized, which was your Mongoloids. Those are the people who they helped to fight against our people and some other turncoats. So really learn your history and stop getting on Dane Calloway, because at one point in time I was down on Dane Calloway because I thought he kept trying to link us to the Mongoloid Indians and saying we was Mongoloid Indians, that we like the Mongoloid Asians who call themselves Indians, that they living on the reservation. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that we as an original people here in the Americas are being linked to the Asian Native Americans and the $5 Caucasian. You know, I didn't like that. I didn't like that we were being linked to those people. And I say I didn't like it because we are the oldest people in America. So if we follow that, we would have our own culture here in America. Straight up. You see, this headdress represents flight. This headdress represents flight. All right. Why would we use feathers as a decorative headdress? Well, you look at the people in the West Indies and things like that when they doing their parade, that we go all the way back using these feathers and whatnot. You see the women making these costumes when they do their little, even down in certain places in Mardi Gras thing, where you have people down there doing these headdresses and all that. They would always have their little parades. You know, we was always turning up, and you know the women was making feathered headdress. You see all these pretty feathers, so you know they're gonna make it as some kind of head covering, some kind of headdress. Again, this represented flight, or the taking of flight. And I said at one point in time, or at some point in time, our people are going to take flight at some point in time. All right. So I said that being that will eventually happen, that our people will take on that levitational lift from away from the gravitational pull. Again, our people obviously knew that. That's why you would see images on walls in Mesoamerica, in Egypt, which are two closely connected societies. Why? Because a lot of our people from the Americas went into Egypt. You see, it wasn't the other way around. Our people didn't come from Egypt into America. Our people came from America, which was much more advanced, into Egypt. That's why they'll tell you, archaeologists will tell you, the oldest civilizations is really here in America. Not in Egypt, not in the Middle East, not in Africa, not in Asia, but here in America, the oldest civilizations are here. So if the oldest civilizations are here, going back to the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan, all those people were here, then that's a sign that our people were representing these images and things like that. We were representing these. Okay? We was representing these images. And like I said, I'm not ashamed to represent this. I'm definitely not ashamed to. Because, you got certain people who act silly and act like, oh, this is not, this is, you look, I've said, man, we look good with these on, man. This fits us. Like I said, I can't describe how I felt when I put this headdress on. You see, I felt a connection with it instantly. I didn't feel no connection when I used to be Muslim and I put on the jalabia and the kufi. I felt no connection with that. And I used to grow my beard. I had a decent beard, but I just didn't feel no connection with it. I didn't feel no connection with Africa when I put on the dashiki and whatnot. I felt no connection with Africa or Pan-Africanism whatsoever. None. Because that's too vague. This right here is vivid. This Mesoamerican culture, because American Indian culture is Mesoamerican culture. Don't get it twisted. American Indian culture, which is us, is connected and came out of Mesoamerican culture. Okay? And we just taking back what's ours. That's all. We shouldn't be ashamed to take back what's ours. And I'm not saying and trust me, I'm not going to be walking around wearing this every 5 minutes. And, I'm not going to be doing that. Like I said, this was just something I said I wanted to do because I wanted to address it and I wanted to sport it. You'll see me from time to time when I feel in the mood, because this is something special to me. This is definitely not something that we just going to be walking around wearing. This is going to be like maybe special events. Certain people will wear certain colors and whatnot. And, we'll do something like that to pay homage to our Mesoamerican ancestry, our American indigenous ancestry. We have nothing to do with the Native Americans. Let me make this clear. We are not Native Americans, okay? We are not Native Americans. We are American Indians. There's a difference. I told you before. The American Indians are indigenous to America. The Native Americans are your first. The people who are being called Native Americans, which are your Caucasians and Asians, because if you look on those reservations, there are Caucasians mixed in with the so-called Mongoloid Native Americans. Those people are your first immigrants into America. Your Native Americans are the first, or immigrants to America. Native is really just another way of saying immigrant. You see, because you could be born in a place and, you know, let's just say you come from another place and your children are born here after time. Next thing you know, they can say that they're native to that land because they were born here. All native just means you were born here. It don't mean that your family and all that were indigenous to this land. You see, our thing is we saying our people are indigenous to America. This is Atlantis. Yes, we did project down from the fourth dimension into this place that was set aside for us. And I said this in the other night's cast. I said that real talk, that Africa really encompasses Asia and Europe. Africa encompasses Asia and Europe. And like I said, how you know that is because, and like I said, shout out to you, Dane Calloway. You pointed this out and it made a lot of sense. I always give credit where credit is due. I never take credit for stuff that I didn't discover. Dane Calloway made a good point. He said that being that America is, Africa is connected to Asia, and Asia is pretty much Europe, because there's really no such thing as Europe. That's why I used to call it Eurasia, because Europe is really Asia. Okay, the Caucasians just sectioned it off for themselves because they wanted to feel important, I guess, and have their own continent. And they are Caucasians. They are Caucasus Asians, or Asians from the Caucasus Mountain. That's what your white people are, your so-called Caucasians. They are Asians from the Caucasus Mountains, which, you know, stretches across Asia and into Europe. So this is where they get the term Caucasian from. They're Asians from the Caucasus Mountains. Okay. And they basically sectioned off Europe, which is really Asia, as their own section. So Asia is a part of Africa and Europe is a part of Asia, and it's all a part of Africa because the Caucasians acknowledge Africa as being the place where life started, human life, right? And that's correct for them. That has nothing to do with us. You see, continents are basically land mass with water between. That's what separates one continent from another. Water in between the land masses. There's no water between Africa, Asia, and Europe. There's no water there. In other words, you don't have to cross water to get to there. You don't have to sail there. You don't have to really fly there. You can actually cross it on land. So if you can cross it on land, that means all the land is connected. And if the land is connected, it's all one land. And they said that Africa is older than Asia, or what they know as Africa. So basically all of Asia and Europe is Africa. Europe is really Northeast Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Europe is really Northeast Africa. So when it makes sense when the Caucasians come from, quote unquote, Europe into Africa and they start colonizing it, they have every right to feel as though, you know, they got that, because Umar and all of other so-called Pan-Africanists, didn't they say that all life started in Africa? They agree with the Caucasian scientists about life starting in Africa, and therefore your Caucasians who are in Africa, Europe is in Africa, Asia is in Africa, they would be African too. And in fact, they do refer to themselves as Africans. That's facts. So your Caucasians, your Europeans are Africans. Your white people are Africans. Your Asian people are Africans. Your tribal people are, your tribal black people, your real black people, not us. We copper colored. We totally different. You got your tribal black Africans. You know your tribal black Africans. You know how they look like Manute Bol and that actor Henry Seeley and all them other people, Alec Weck. Though that's the model Alec Weck. Those are your tribal Africans. That's who are those are the Africans. Those are the real indigenous Africans. The people who got afros and braids, who live in the Middle East and live in parts of Africa. Y'all not African. I just told you, y'all not African, because your hair, your skin tone, everything else, the sheen to your skin, like I said, That'll let you know if you're African or not. If you see a people who can grow hair like afros and got sheen to their skin and, you know, have certain, you know, features to them, you could tell they're not African. Africans, real indigenous Africans are the tribal Africans, the ones that don't really grow hair. They got the dry, coarse hair, really thick BB buckshots that don't really grow. A lot of the African women are bald, you see. And hey, maybe some of them Africans did mix in with some of you black women here in America. Maybe a few Africans did get up because some of y'all bald like motherfuckers, to be honest with you. No disrespect. But if you didn't burn it out with the perm, some of y'all burned it out with the perm. But for y'all that can still grow your afros and your braids and things like that. And if you find afros and braids in Africa, then that's because those are not native. Afros and braids are not native to Africa. They're native to America. Or should I say they are indigenous to America? Excuse me. Afros and braids are indigenous to America, not Africa. Because rarely are you going to see Africans with afros. They got really low haircuts. Rarely are you going to see the women with braids. If they got braids, because they got weave in their hair. Or they pulling that shit so tight that they damn eyes are like they're going to pop out their head because they ain't got no hair to hold that shit. Their hair is really non-existent. A lot of the tribal African women don't got no hair. They got to get weaves. All right, so let me move on with that. I talked enough about the feathered hair crown. This is, again, has to do with flight. You see, the mindset of flight or levitation or eventually flying. Because, again, you see even in a lot of the American Indian rituals, you'll see where they show them wearing feathers on their arms, like in certain costumes. And even certain costumes, little events, things they do, they'll have people with feathers on doing dances and stuff like that. That's making reference to our people who came down from on high. Again, the levitational from the fourth dimension into the third dimension, which is gravitational. Let me have me a sip of coffee. All right. Ended up having more of a sip. I needed. I'm tired. I've been running around doing errands. Let me address the rest of this stuff. I asked a question the other day. I said, what must be done to animals and humans when they become wild and uncontrollable? What must be done to animals and humans? And it's a good reason for me to address this topic. Because our people have been the victims of a whole lot of animal attacks. You see, a whole lot of two-legged animal attacks. Whether these two-legged animals were wearing uniforms or just wearing regular clothes or just out and about and just attacking people, shooting up schools and everything else. Let me tell you something. You should treat all attacks from animals just like that. That way your life is in danger. Okay? Let me see. Somebody was asking a question. Somebody asked a question. I wanted to see what that question was saying. All right. We'll get that question in a minute. But because I can't read, I'm trying to stay on my topic. So if I stop to read questions, I'm not going to get done through this. So I'm going to have one of my wives answer the questions for me or ask me the questions and I'll answer it like that. She ain't been on a job. I gotta dock her some pay. But anyway, no, so what I want to say. So when we dealing with these animal attacks from these humans, all right, because trust and believe, trust and know. Whenever we get attacked by these humans, they should be classified as animal attacks. Because I said your humans are animals, the ones with the straight fur hair. Like I said, whenever one of these humans attacks you, the people with the straight hair, you should deal with them as any animal that is attacking you would deal with. And you be cautious, especially if they're wearing uniforms. Be cautious, but it's going to come a time where you're going to you're going to be afraid for your life. You're trying to survive, so you try to comply with the animals until you can't comply with them. You have to protect yourself. But always know that you are under attack. These are animal attacks. I said this before in the cast. So animals, you cannot reason with them. Okay? You cannot reason with an animal. If an animal is going to attack you, it's going to attack you. And if you have to go out fighting to defend yourself, then do that. But you don't provoke the animals. You try to steer clear of the animals. For all these of you who are making, I'm talking about the animals on 4 legs and the animals on 2 legs. You're humans. Oh, by the way, when I say the humans, those of you who are late, we're not part of the human race. Now, I know that sounds crazy. So-called black people, we're not part of the human race. I did this in one of my other broadcasts. I said we're really technically part of a whole other species known as almond. We're part of the almond race. We're not part of the human race. That's why we don't have straight hair like the humans, which is really animal fur. We don't have it. We have woolly hair that grows up. They have straight fur that grows down. Our skin, everything, our genetic makeup is totally different. They have more of an animal genetic material or animal genetic material. Their genetics follow animals. Ours does not. That's the difference between us as a species. We are almond. They are human. And again, the humans are nothing but 2-legged animals. That's all humans are. This is why your scientists refer to them as mammals. And if you ask the scientists, they'll let you know that humans are just another species of animal. Humans are really just a species of animal. That's it. Because your scientists and all of even the Caucasian, they know that humans got a lot of the same genetic material as the rhesus monkey, right? And they're going to come out and let you know that also they got canine and jackal in them as well, right? Because they were created as an experiment. Your human race is nothing but an experiment of the almond race. We'll revisit. Huh? Yeah. What's the question?
How does the Israelites connect to our ethnic American language?
How does the Israelites connect to our ethnic American heritage?
Since all tribes are from America.
How did it? Well, what they're calling Israel and the tribes of Israel is really our people here in the Americas. Keep in mind, Israel is more of a symbolic name for our people here in the Americas. Okay. I pointed out that, the Israelites and their teaching is based on law, statutes, and commandments, right? Same way the ethnic Americans or the indigenous or the American Indians were, because they found Paleo Hebrew or images of Hebrew or what appeared to be the Hebrew language in the American Indian writings and things like that. And a lot of this stuff they found Hebrew writing. So this was basically our people trying to reestablish themselves as that serpentine order here in the Americas and over, because when we were in that Mesoamerican, when we was in, the South and the Central of America, we were practicing more of our serpentine culture, or the serpentine collective or culture. We were practicing that until we had more, because if you notice, our people always had the serpent and whatnot, because we were those serpentine people here on the earth. So we were practicing a draconian type of law and order and basically judgment and things like that. The whole thing of our people having laws and things like that, a lot of laws and orders and things that we followed, codes of conduct. That's what our culture was really based on, law. Our culture was based on law. So if you see the Israelites, who are based not really in a religion, but more in law and order, statutes and commandments, that goes to our people who would be classified or considered Israelite as well. It's just that a lot of stories were fastened around the whole Israelite thing. And again, what the problem with today's Israelites, the so-called Israelites, is that they are disconnected from the serpentine societies, which, once people wore the crowns with the serpent on it, and, they, basically align themselves with the serpent and the reptile and things like that. Because when you hear about in the Adam and Eve account, you hear about the serpent coming to Eve. Again, that's really our people, the almond race, the serpentine societies, or the people who were in rulership at one time, coming to the humans and beguiling these people and basically taking a lot of their women as well. So there was a heavy serpentine connection with our people. This is why, if you notice, the Israelites, and them will say this too. They'll say what's the phrase? You have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Now, question: why would they use the term wise as a serpent? Why would your Israelites use the term wise as a serpent? A serpent is a reptile, and if they were truly talking about the reptile, why would you make reference to a creature who has instinct? When you say that a serpent is wise, wise equals what? Intelligence, or a brain to think. Reptiles, and they don't have brains to think. They have instinct that they work off, that was implanted in them. Just like all other creatures, they have instinct. It's only men and women who have the intelligence to think. So wisdom comes from men and women. They don't come from animals and creatures. So when the Israelites were talking about wise as a serpent, they were talking about the serpentine people, the Amun race, who were here on earth, who were the lords over the whole of the planet, and they govern by law and order. This is what they were talking about when they said that the Israelites followed these 10 commandments, and you had the so-called Egyptians following 613. See, all over the planet, our people were heavily following the culture of law and order, just like the so-called American Indians. Their real culture was basically based in natural law and order, and that's us today. Natural law and order. We didn't follow no religion. You see, we didn't follow no religion. It's not until these people started, when the so-called Israelites started mixing in Christian insanity. Because if you ask the Israelites today, they'll tell you they Christian too. How that happened? The so-called Christians or the Catholics, which is again is a Catholic religion, they don't have no laws to follow. They don't follow no laws. So how are you going to say the Israelites and say they Christians and they Israelites? There's no such thing. That's why they read from the New Testament. Because the Old Testament is just basically laws. That's it. Laws, statutes, commandments. What not to eat, what not to do, what to wear, what not to partake in certain things. Again, those are based in laws. The so-called New Testament is based more in religion and spookism and spirituality. And that's where the mix-up comes in at. Where there's a disconnect from the Lord and a connection more with mankind. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Let me see. See if there's any more questions. Let me make sure. Are we on questions? Good. Anybody any other questions? He says, now you have to wear. No, I don't have to wear this everyday live. I ain't wearing this everyday live, Marcus. I ain't wearing it every day. Like I said, I'm only doing it today because, like I said, I don't want it to be a regular thing. I want it to be special when I put this on, when I decide to put it on. I don't want to just put it on just to be putting it on. But hey, keep it real. Don't this look more natural on me? Do it look on anybody, on the Mongoloids and the Caucasians? Don't this look more natural on me? Let's keep it real. Don't it look more natural on me? What they saying in the group chat? This looks more natural. It don't look like no costume when I'm wearing it, right? It don't look like no costume. When they put it on, it's a costume. When I put it on, when we put it on, it's culture. We putting on our heritage. We putting on our heritage. What they saying? Look more natural on me, right? All right. It don't look foreign on me. Huh? It don't look like a costume. When I put it on, my wives freaked out. They like, you look like a real Indian chief. That's how I am. All right. Let me see. Black men or black males? Which one? Answer: black males. Why do I say black males? There's no such thing as black men. They're black males. Why do I say that? Because I say that because anyone who allows another group of people to define you, especially the men, you're not really men, you're males. Again, the so-called white men called you black. They called you African American. They called you black. They called you Negro. You had nothing to say about this. You had no choice in the matter. They just called you it and you went with it. So if men are not deciding who they are, Women are not deciding who they are as a people through your own knowledge of your heritage, your history, things like that, your identity. Then you're basically being subjugated. When they call us black, that's a way of subjugating our people. When they call us black people. When Caucasians call us black people, they do it for a number of reasons. And I said that, if for men to allow other men or males, men to call you something, to call you black and African American and Negro, which come from other people, and even African. Like I said, African come from other people. So Umar, when you pushing Pan-Africanism, Umar Johnson, you boule, nigga. When you pushing Pan-Africanism, again, that's some true that's some true slave teaching you pushing. Because again, if you allow another man to call you African or call you anything out your name, then you are not a man. You are a male, which is another way of saying a boy. You are a boy. Male is just another way of saying boy, because boys are just classified as males, just like girls are classified as females until they grow into men and women. You grow into men and women when you are in your right adult state of mind to make decisions for yourself, to make decisions on which way you go in life. So-called black people are not in that mindset. That's why you still going around letting people call you black and your skin is not even black. You sitting around here letting people call you Negro, which is another way of saying black. And again, your skin is not black. You sitting around here letting people say you from Africa, and we're not from Africa. We was always in America. That's a lie. Because again, they want us to believe we African with them, so that they could classify us as citizens of America. And anytime you call yourself a citizen, that means you're not indigenous to the land. That means you are a immigrant. They want us to basically believe we immigrants like them. The Caucasians, the Asians, the tribal Africans, and all the rest of these people that come from other places. They want us to, which they used to call us black Americans. Didn't they used to call us black Americans or American Negro? Ain't that what they used to call us? For the longest time, they called us American Negroes, black Americans. Look how long it took them to call us African. Why is that? Why did it take all the way up into the 70s, going into the 80s to become African if we came from Africa? Make that make sense to me. Why all up into the other time? You don't hear no mention of us coming from Africa. You just hear the American Negro. You hear American Negro, black American. That's all you hear. You don't hear no African anything. Answer, because again, it took them that much time to make that up and decide that was going to be our classification. Because we are the indigenous people here, and they don't want us to say that. This is pissing a lot of people off right now, probably. Your Pan-Africanists, your fake Native American Mongoloids. This is pissing them off because, see, the truth is coming out. The truth is coming out. And you guys, again, that's sitting up here talking about, oh, you with the Indian thing. The Indian thing is our thing. Stop with this nonsense. Again, MENTELLECT is still being taught. Again, MENTELLECT is really fourth dimensional knowledge. So I'm teaching that only to certain people. And I'm teaching every night, but in bits and pieces. But we have to first acknowledge what our American heritage is. Because, see, we in America. Make no mistakes about it. I said that people keep on trying to fit things into America that don't fit. Let me explain what I mean. Our people keep trying to fit cultures into America and keep trying to tie themselves to cultures that don't fit into America. Our people keep trying to tie us into Africa. Okay, well, if you believe you African and you pushing a Pan-African doctrine, then go live in Africa. Go live in Africa. The Africans don't even like the term. They don't even really rock with that term African. They just align themselves when they come here, but they don't really. Africans go by what their country and what their tribe is called. They don't really. That's a white man's terminology, Africa. So Umar, when you pushing and all you pro blacks and Pan-Africanists, Dr. James Smalls and all them people that's pushing this, what we African, those are really boule Negroes, man. Pushing that whole. I'm gonna just say it like that. Those are really boule Negroes pushing this black nonsense to our people that came from the white man. All that African stuff is slave master titles. Those are all slave master titles from the Caucasians. When they calling you African, they really insulting you. When they calling you black, they really insulting you. And y'all sitting up here talking, I'm a strong black man. Black power. Give a strong black hand. That's all boule coon talk. Let me tell you something. The boule coons are here to push Pan-Africanism and blackness. And if they can't get you to follow Pan-Africanism and blackness, then they're going to push Christianity or Islam on you. Okay, anything other than what we are. One of the things I noticed that people like Umar and even Tariq Nasheed, they don't agree on the fact that our people are American Indians, or excuse me, American Indians. They don't agree on that. They'll say, "Oh, our people was Umar, we African, we ain't got nothing to do with America." You mean to tell me all these people who's supposed to be well-studied scholars like Umar and Tariq sometimes said that. No shot at Tariq. He says that sometimes about people being, native to America, but he kind of still dance around the whole African thing. He said, "My people haven't been in America for 500 years. Well, which one is it? Either our people was here in the Americas all this time and are indigenous, or we came here 500 years ago. You see, that's what a lot of the Boule Coons do. They dance around the whole African thing because they got to promote Pan-Africanism. The Boule Coons got to promote Pan-Africanism to our people. They can't promote this. So when people said that, Dane Calloway, he get all these views and whatnot, and ain't nobody taking his channel down. The only issue I had with Dane Calloway is I thought he was trying to align us with the Mongoloid Native Americans. But like I said, I look more into his thing. I say if he's linking us to who we truly are, the Mesoamericans, and linking our head crowns, our feathered head crowns to it, I got no problem with it. Then what he's saying is on point. So I guess the people at YouTube, they ain't gonna take it down right away, or they're not gonna start shadow banning his channel right away, because he is giving a lot of truth. A lot of truth is coming through his channel, and Tariq gives a lot of truth, and Umar, they say some things, but like I said, no, if you're not totally addressing who we are as the indigenous Americans, if you're not addressing who we are as the real American Indian, not the Native Americans. The Native Americans is another title that the so-called white man came up with, just like African American. Because I told you, they want to decide who's going to be what. They want to classify who's who. But notice they don't classify themselves as European Americans, which they should. So that's why I was saying the black should be really a racial slur to our people, because blackness, it means absent of light, absent of color. We come in all these different shades and complexions of copper and bronze. Copper colored people, from the dark copper bronze people, dark bronze, all the way to beige bronze complexion. We got what you would call light skin or beige complexion bronze, all the way. You look at the different shades of a penny, and with the different shades of copper, you'll see the yellowish or beige type all the way to the darkest, and you'll see the reddish in between. That's all the ranges of our colors and our complexions as ethnic Americans. We are really a people of color. We got different ranges of color. All right. My brother is beige complexion. You see, I'm more of a red bronze complexion, reddish bronze. You see, my daughter's dark bronze. My other one is more of a reddish bronze, But my point is, we come in many different shades. We come in many different tones. So being that we come in many different shades and different tones, why are we sitting up here allowing people to call us black? Saying that we are absent of color. We got multiple colors within our genetic material. They just want to make us black because they decide to make themselves white. And again, that's really just meant to erase who we are. Because what did I say that time? How do you erase the American Indians? How do they get rid of the American indigenous people? Because American Indian is just another way of saying American indigenous. How you get rid of the American indigenous people, or the people of America, the indigenous of America, is to just classify them as something else. And that happened. That happened. You can't take that back. That happened. Why, if we African, why the so-called white man had to go around and force us to be black and Negro? Why did they have to force us to do that on the census and things like that? You had people coming up with guns, forcing us at gunpoint, and even killing a lot of our people to say that they were Negro, to classify themselves as Negro or black. Well, Negro, which is really just saying black. And if we didn't classify as as Negro, they'd kill our people, man. That's why a lot of our people, the elders, they wasn't with the whole black thing. They had to convince us they had to basically con us into becoming black people. Because that's what they wanted us to be, the Caucasians, the so-called whites in this society, the elites. They wanted us to accept being black people. Basically a people whose whole history and heritage was wiped out. Because that's what you're saying that you're accepting once you claim that you're a black person. a black man, a black woman, that means you are a person without any heritage, without any culture, without any history, anything. That's what you basically saying when you saying you black. Then they give you this BS black history nonsense with people who they handpick to be part of your black history. You see, people who they handpick. You know, just Frederick Douglass. You know, the people that Umar, he puts up and tells you, oh, you know, I'm sorry, the FDGM, whatever, Academy, Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey. See, they're allowed to be our black heroes. Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, who was pushing Pan-Africanism. You see, who was a boule. Marcus Garvey. He was clicked up with the Irish, who was pushing that whole red, black, and green. And notice none of these people take African names. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. We got any questions? Any questions? Okay. We got any questions? My wife ain't on her job again. At the DACA. Next, we're going to speak on natural marijuana. I'm smoking natural marijuana. What time is it? That's okay. We're going to 9:30. I'm going to get all my subjects out. I'm going to go as long as if I got to go to 9:30, I'm going to go. Because even if I got to go up to 10, because I want to get all my topics out. Because I'm going to start at 10:30, Mentellect Radio. Mentellect Radio tonight at 10:30 for you people to set up here and say, oh, he's not doing Mentellect no more. Of course, it's always Mentellect. It's always on it. But we just acknowledging our American heritage right now. All right? We just acknowledging our American heritage right now. This is our American indigenous or American Indian heritage. And again, if we're not the American Indians, then why do you call our people in the islands West Indian? Why are you calling the people in the islands in Jamaica and all that West Indian? You trying to call them Afro-Caribbeans. Now that's a new terminology. But they was referring to our people as West Indians. Why? If they're not Indian. What's the question?
Do you think that the Bible history really took place in America?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do think that the Bible history took place in America. Yeah, I do. I think that because our people were basically, for the most part, using America as our base of operations. And we're just going to say it because they really want you to sit up here and believe that this place was empty until the Mongoloid Indians showed up or the Mongoloid Asians showed up. They want you to think that America, the continent, that's South America now, Central America, the Yucatan, Mexico, North America, Canada, they really want the islands. They want you to really believe that this place was empty before the Mongoloid Asians came over here. Because they did cross the Bering Straits into America and they picked up our culture. And I said this to them before. I said, if you can show me where the so-called Mongoloid Indians, because the Asian-looking Indians with the straight hair who call themselves Indians, the Asian-looking Native Americans, I'm not even calling them Indians, the Asian-looking Native Americans, who the white man calls Native Americans, who are also Caucasian mixed in with them, if you can trace back their heritage, which goes into Mongolia, Asia, because they was running from Genghis Khan, and they came into America. It was Genghis Khan they were running away from. They crossed over the Bering Straits and came into America, which is where a lot of these straight-haired Asian Native Americans came from. If you could go back to where they come from and look at their heritage, see if they had these head crowns there. See if they was wearing feathers and wearing the bows and arrows and dressing the way they was dressing it. See if they had these feathered head crowns. If they didn't have these feathered head crowns, all right, if they didn't have these feathered head crowns, if they wasn't repping that in Mongolia and Asia, if they didn't have that culture over there, then that means they had to pick it up from somebody when they came here. They really want you to think that this continent sat empty until these Mongoloid Indians crossed the Bering Straits and came over here. That's a lie. Because they already did the archaeologists on them. They already did. All you got to do is look it up. They show you who the first inhabitants of America were, the first people in America. They didn't say they came from no place else. They said the first people in the Americas. See who that is. It's a bronze person, so-called black woman. They show you. They reconstructed her face, and you know she wasn't alone. You know she wasn't here by herself. So it was people that predated her. She had to come from a mother and a father. So they didn't link her to Africa. They didn't link her to Asia. So where did she come from? They didn't link her to Europe. Where did she come from? Because keep in mind, those places are clear across the water. So where did she come from? She's native to here. See, they don't want you to think that there was a native people here before the Mongoloids and the white man came here. They want you to think this place was empty. It was not. Life was going on here. Very rarely are you going to see people that's just going to come from out of nowhere to some place. They're going to come to places where there's people. Again, they knew our people was here in the Americas. Okay? The last unexplored continent that has not really been explored like that is Antarctica now. They're waiting for Antarctica to melt. But you can go there, but you can't stay. Some people will go for a minute and they have to leave. I don't know how they're doing it right now, but Antarctica is melting down. And you know the Caucasians already seeing what they can take from Antarctica, and they've been going, and the Asians, I think, been going there too. But we'll see how that goes. All right. Why is natural marijuana good for anxiety in men and women? I'm smoking natural marijuana, which was a staple of our people, Mesoamerican / American Indian people. We smoked marijuana. We wore tattoos. All right. When you see the tattoos on my arms, we wore tattoos and we smoked marijuana. We didn't get that from the Caucasians. They picked that up from us. We didn't get that from the Mongoloids. They picked that up from us. We was doing it. We was doing the inks and whatnot and drawing and doing the tattoos on ourselves and doing all kinds of, creative things, making feathered headdresses, tattooing each other, smoking marijuana. It was growing all over the place, be it in Mexico, because again, you do know Mexico, it was originally a so-called black bronze country. Okay, and it was indigenous Americans there, Indians in Mexico. It was Indians in Mexico. You see, again, Mesoamerican. It's all the same thing. American Indians came out of the Mesoamericans, and these are all bronze, copper-colored, so-called black people. And again, if nobody's repping that, if nobody ain't talking about we the ethnic Americans, if they're not talking about we the modern-day American Indians, then that's who we really are, and they still telling us we black, or certain people just telling us we African, don't listen to them. Those are boule coons. If these certain influences out here, we're sitting around here still talking about we come from African slave ships. There wasn't even no slave ships back then. There were rowboats. There were no slave ships back then. There were boats with big rows where you row. You could only take certain people at a time. They didn't have no big ass boats. They wasn't transporting textiles and things like that. They had rowboats, boats with the oar. They wasn't going from crossing the Atlantic over into the Americas. More lies. They was transporting our people up and down the waters in America. They was doing that. Up and down the different ports in the America. You got different ports that they set up here to transport our people up and down the rivers in America. That's true. But not out of Africa. They did kidnap our people. Yeah, they did. From different parts of America. And brought them to the South, just like that movie 12 Years a Slave. That's how things really happened. And then a lot of our people were prisoners of war. From Indian wars we were fighting, like the Seminole Wars and whatnot. A lot of our people were prisoners of war because there was a whole lot of Indian uprisings here, like I said in my last video. A lot of slave uprisings, really, aka Indian uprisings or indigenous uprisings with the immigrants that came in, the Caucasians. And they had help. Some of our people helped them against us. So let me get back to this point with the marijuana. I keep going off the track, excuse me. But marijuana is the best thing to deal with anxieties. The so-called white man letting you know that now. That's why when these Caucasians get stressed out, they're talking about, marijuana, this, marijuana, that. Before they was labeling marijuana as a drug. They tried to create this negative stigma around marijuana because our people like to smoke it. We enjoyed it. It relaxed us. It took away our anxieties because there's a lot of activity going on here in this three-dimensional realm. There's a lot of craziness. There's a whole lot of demonic possession here. It's a whole lot of nervous energy around our people that you deal with every day. A whole lot of nervous energy. So when you're dealing with and picking up people's nervous energy like that, and you tend to be paranoid and you're looking around and you need to relax and whatnot, and you get stressed out, things, people putting you through things. This is the best cure for that. To get you to relax. Make you sit up here and say, it ain't that serious. We need something to help take it down. This was designed for that. Marijuana was designed to make us relax. We drank this in teas. We would smoke that. So I definitely recommend marijuana, natural marijuana with seeds. Natural marijuana with seeds. Get it from some rosters, preferably. Don't get it from these Caucasians, because a lot of them is selling that medicated marijuana. When I say that medicated marijuana, what I mean to say is they doing little, they trying to turn it into drugs. When they say medical marijuana, that's another way of saying they trying to make marijuana into a drug. Okay? Because see, marijuana is not a drug, it's an herb. But they tried to criminalize it because we used it. I told you, going back to that guy, Harry Anslinger, who used to be the head of the FBN, he dead now. Federal Bureau of Narcotics, what he said about marijuana and why they criminalized it. He said because marijuana makes Negroes think that they better than white people. That's was his whole thing of, yeah, it's good that they criminalize that. Spoken like a true racist. Yeah. Why were American Indians called savages and Native Americans are called civilized? I think I said this before, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat this anyway. The American Indians, or who white men call savages, was really our people they was talking about. They call us savages because we used to fight against them. And like I said, we lost a lot of people. We killed a lot of people. We were vicious and they were vicious, and we would go back and forth. You see how like we did in Louisiana when the slaves revolted. And that, again, it was over 520 something uprisings. And this is what the Caucasians recorded. This is what they willing to admit to. Can you imagine the stuff that they not willing to admit to, where people was just walking off of plantations, burning down plantations and all this other stuff, killing the slave master and their family? They did that a lot of times, man. So you seen a lot of times in slavery, they would just kind of be nice to the people. They would chill out, and they would like, yo, so we don't get the uprisings and stuff like that. Let's just chill out. Try to act like they part of the family and try to treat them. Let's not rape their women as much, or not rape their daughters like they was doing, molesting their children. Let's just chill out and let their families stay together. That way we'll get more out of them. But if you put people in a desperate situation, this is what these idiots didn't understand. You put people in a desperate situation where it's either fight or flight. They're going to either fight you or run away from you, but they're not going to stay and get abused. So they realize that. So you've seen them calming down with that. But of course, you had your Caucasians who was like really animals and whatnot. And they were just, really demonic when it came to the hatred of our people. And I said the only reason why they hate our people is because we're the real indigenous Americans. And they want our place. They hate us not because of the color of our skin. They hate us because we are indigenous to America. And Caucasians want to be indigenous. They want to replace us as the indigenous people. You see, as long as we are around, you so-called black people, they already made you black. That was a way of wiping out your American Indian heritage. They already made you black. They already made you African, which was a way of basically saying African American is really saying, we brought you from Africa into America as slaves. That's the only reason they call you African American. They know that you're not they know, because the only reason you would use a term like African American is to say that these people are immigrants. We're not immigrants, so why would they call us African American? Answer, because that's really meant to be an insult to keep in our head and still in our head that we brought you from Africa to America as slaves. That's really just a title of slave. African American is a slave title. African is a slave title because the first people to conquer Africa was your Greeks, and they're the ones that called it Africa. And they started dividing up so-called Mama Africa and whatnot. So when they was making reference to Africa, that was really a colonization terminology. So any so-called pro-blacks today that are calling us African American, are telling us to be into Pan-Africanism, don't trust them. They're boule. They're boule coons. They the niggas that's working with the beast, man. To keep our people blind, deaf, and dumb. And again, the civilized Indians are your Mongoloid Native Americans. The civilized Native Americans are your Mongoloids who mixed in with the Caucasians, who live on the res, who get that casino money And that aid, that American aid every year, that's your civilized Native Americans. That's your white man's version, his cleaned up version of the American Indians. These mongoloids who putting on their damn costumes, who he's hiring people. Remember when I said in that video where they show you the so-called guy who was crying in the 70s, who everybody thought was Indian, and he was dark-skinned, he had the black hair, he's supposed to be a so-called Indian. Come find that guy's a Sicilian, man. He's Italian. He's not even so-called native. He's Italian. That guy, y'all ain't seen that famous commercial, now question. Why would they have to hire a actor, a person who's not even so-called Native American? Why didn't they get a real Native American? Why did they have to hire people to play Native Americans? Answer: because they know those people are not indigenous. Again, there are a lot of those people that look Asian, man, or Mexican. They can go for Asian and Mexican, and all those people cross the Bering Straits over into America. They're not indigenous to America. Mongoloid Native Americans are not indigenous to America. They are Asian. They will admit this to you if you ask them. If you ask them where they come from, they'll tell you they crossed the Bering Straits. That's where the Eskimos came from. A lot of your Latinos, your Mexicans, the ones that you see now, not the so-called black Mexicans, the copper-colored Mexicans, not them. They are native to America, to Mexico. The black Mexicans, those that's left, they are native to Mexico. I think at one point in time, somebody said Michael Jackson's mother is Mexican. One of his parents is Mexican, which made sense because they named one of their brothers Tito. You see, that's Spanish, but somebody was saying, I don't know how true it is that Catherine Jackson on the side of Michael Jackson, somebody's Mexican. And it makes sense because, again, Mexicans, like I said, the real face of Mexicans is bronze, copper-colored people going all the way back to the Olmecs. The Olmecs are so-called black. They're black. So-called bronze, copper-colored people. They're not those Latinos you see today. I'm almost done. Oh, I got a question? What's the question?
Were humans created and taught how to exist by the Moors and then they came into America?
Were humans created by the Moors?
No. Yeah, were humans created and taught how to exist by the Moors?
No. Humans were created by the Amun race. There was no Moor. Again, the word Moor means black. Okay, the word Moor means black. It's a Spanish word. So again, because if I ask you what language the word Moor is in, that's Spanish. That means black. And they use the word moreno. It's synonymous with the word moreno. It means black. Again, anything that's making reference to our people as black, leave it alone. That's not us. Again, that's why I'm not with none of the Moorish nonsense. You see, and again, you so-called Moors who like the way that word sound, you only just like the way it sound. But you're not dealing with the fact that the word is just strictly, it just means black. That's what it means. In Spanish, it means black. Okay? It's just like Negro. It means black. Tell me it don't mean nothing else other than that. And then you guys are following Islam. Islam is not our way of life. Islam is a slave religion that was forced on our people just like Christianity. That's why I made that say I said it really disgusts me to see so-called black people, copper-colored people following Islam and Christianity. And anyway, why would you follow Islam and Christianity, which are nothing but slave religions? Because you look it up. The so-called Arabs had our people in slavery. The so-called Caucasians who was pushing Christianity had the so-called blacks up here preaching damn Christianity and white Jesus on the plantation. They enslaved our people. So why would you want to follow that today and you're supposed to be free? Why would you want to worship the image of a Christ or a cross or anything that was used to enslave our people? Why would you want to do that? Make that make sense to me, and y'all supposed to be free people. So miss me with the whole, why you wearing a feathered head crown? This is connected to us. Not Christianity, not Islam, not Africa. That has nothing to do with us. These are the things that the beast used to enslave us. And y'all seem like y'all fighting for y'all slave titles. So no, the humans were created by the Amun race. We are the Amun race. Falsely being called Negro, black. Amun is not a god. Amun is a race. That's why the Olmecs refer to themselves as the old men, which is really another way of saying Amun. Look it up. It wasn't Olmec, it was old men. Look it up. I got a question. Got it.
Why are so many UFOs being seen, especially in Central and South America?
Why are so many UFOs being seen?
Central and South America.
Because that's where all the pyramids were. That's where the original buildings of our people that we built, you know, which were storehouses for intel there. And a lot of gold and a lot of precious metals were stored in those places because those places, a lot of those places were raided by the Vatican. They sent people in and they robbed a lot of those places. They took a lot of stuff out of there. You see a lot of, you know, how you say, a lot of, what's the word I want to say? A lot of structure, a lot of symbols and things went into those pyramids in Central and South America. Okay. Mexico, a lot of things went into those pyramids. A lot of that is signs of the way those things are built. Just like in Egypt, they're asymmetrically shaped a certain way to line up with the stars. It's the same thing here in the Americas. A lot of those, if you look at pyramids from the sky, you look as though this looks like a landing pattern. Like, for example, when you have you have markers and things like that. Notice they have markers on runways where planes land. They tend to be cone shaped, right? Notice they tend to be cone shaped. You have markers on on runways, on airlines, and you'll have air traffic controllers. You'll have all types of symbols and whatnot that you could see from the sky, and it's meant to be for a landing purpose or a guiding purpose. Guidance purpose. It was meant to look a certain way from the sky. That's why you'll see certain UFOs and things like that, or unidentified flying objects. And then you got a lot of America, they trying to test out those things as well. A lot of the stuff they trying to reenact, or they trying to test out things that they found, because trust me, this government went through America thoroughly, and they found a lot of things here that are hidden in the earth. They found engines and things like that. They found motors. They found all kind of stuff in America, in the Americas. You know, electrical generators. They found a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stuff you think is just structures and buildings are really edifices for, you know, from the sky, for landing and things like that. Basically, sky direction. Any other question? Have black people been living on? Okay. Have black people been living on borrowed time in America? Yeah, they have. I said that because our people have allowed themselves and their culture and their heritage to be erased in America, now you are starting to erase yourselves in America. Notice as they're bringing in the Mexicans and other people to replace you, you're becoming quickly made a fringe group in America. They're quickly making black people a fringe group. And of course, you would make people who call themselves black a fringe group, because what are you? What is your community? Where are you as a people? Who represents you as a people? Nobody represents black people. Nobody. Because black people are not a people. So if you are not a people, if you're not recognized as a people, every time they call you black people, that's basically them saying that they don't recognize you as a people. Not that we care, but that's their way of saying that, you know, you're not recognized as a people. And of course, you're not recognized as a people if you're calling yourself black. What is the culture in that? Where's the language in that? Where's the heritage and the history in that? There is none. It wasn't meant for you to have none. So anybody who don't know who they are, what their language is, what their culture is, you basically living on borrowed time in any society. You're basically living on borrowed time in any society if you don't know who you are as a people. You're living on borrowed time. All right. Plug this back in. Lost connection on my laptop. All right. Trying to get at the rest of my questions. All right. Give me a second. Bear with me. Trying to get with the rest of my questions. All right, we're about to wrap this up in a minute. I just want to touch on the rest of my questions. I had to restart my laptop. Give me 1 second. I want to finish off my questions. We're doing MENTELLECT Radio tonight at 10:30. So check us out, MENTELLECT Radio. Bring back up my questions. I would have finished off on the phone, but I like to look at everything I'm doing. Okay, give me 1 second. I just want to touch on the last of these questions. I don't hear my children screaming tonight into the camera. They laying down somewhere, sleeping and whatnot, or resting or relaxing or whatnot. So we're glad we got the peace tonight. Okay. I'll answer the last of these questions, then we're gonna wrap this up. Let me see. All right. And we're back up. I think I might have touched on everything. I think I got everything. Yeah. I think I done touched everything. I'm gonna look and see if we got any questions. I'll take another 10 minutes of questions if one of my lovely wives will assist me in that and reading the questions, the comments and stuff. All right. Let's see. I'm waiting for the chat to come back up. And I had to ask these so-called American Indians, what is their real names? What is their real names? What is their American indigenous names? I'm seeing them. Why are they wearing this? Have you ever wondered why these so-called American Indians, so-called Native Americans don't have Native American names? What is their Native American names? How come we don't know what their language is? We never heard a Native American name before. They usually got regular names like Caucasians. How is that happening? If they were never in slavery, like they said, and they never were, held hostage and all this other stuff, why don't they have American Indian names? What is their American Indian language? What is their names? I'm hearing names like Red Cloud and what is the equivalent to nicknames. What is their real names? I have a real name. Mine is Nubem Menkares. All right. So what is their names? I would like to know what the Native American names are. I would like to know what the Native American names are. You see, I would definitely like to know that. Do I got any more questions? Because I'm about to wrap it up soon. Hello? Questions, comments, concerns? Anything? Huh? Do I got any more questions? All right.
Are emotions keeping so-called black individuals down?
Yeah, emotions are keeping so-called black people down. Yes, emotions are. We're more emotional than logical. Okay? We're more emotional than logical. That's why we want to hold on to being black. We want to hold on to being African and Negro, because y'all don't develop an emotional attachment for things that are not even real. And see, when we're not keeping it real with ourselves, people are able to keep it fake with us. And we end up losing ourselves in people's lies and stories and fairy tales and things like that. So we're going to put an end to that. Again, I just came out here with the headdress on just to represent this and whatnot. I wanted to get people's thoughts on this. Again, I'm only going to wear this once in a blue moon, when I'm feeling like attaching to our, which again, you're always going to be attached to our ethnic American heritage and our roots. So that's why I went and did this. I put it on and decided to rep it. And I rep it damn well if I do say so myself. We got any other questions? Any more questions?
No, no. Did you get the ancient Mesoamericans use hot air balloons?
Did ancient Americans use what now?
Hot air balloons.
Did they use hot air balloons? I think they did, if I'm not mistaken. I think they did. I'm not sure. I need to check into that. I think I heard something like that before. All right, so I'm gonna look into that. I think so. If I'm not mistaken, you know, we can look up everything. That's the beautiful thing about stuff now. You can look up pretty much anything. But I don't know. That's it. Any other questions before I close out?
Why do we have fingerprints?
Why do we have fingerprints? Somebody asked me that. The reason, and I meant to answer, the reason why we have fingerprints is for deterring things like friction. You do know if we didn't have prints, things would slip through our hands. The prints give us grips. These fingerprints are like grips, like you have for friction and whatnot. We have these grooves in our hand to hold things. Because if we didn't have any prints, things would slip through our hands. That's the real reason why we got fingerprints. It's just that, you know, the beast, and you know, of course, the army made it as a way to identify people. But this is really for the way of holding things. So think if we didn't have any fingerprints, we couldn't hold on to nothing. So this is really the way for us to grip things, to hold on to things. That's why we got fingerprints. Class? All right. Anything else?
Did you get why are so many UFOs being seen?
I got that already. I said that about the UFOs. That's it? All right, that's it. That's good. So if everybody like, they want to give me a thumbs up and whatnot, y'all want to hit the cash app, that's cool. Like I said, we're going to do another High and Mighty Talks. I just wanted to do this before the new year, before we come back in the new year. Hey, y'all might see me with an Olmec crown on next time I come through. I'm going to have a straight up metal Olmec crown on. You see, I'm doing everything representing our heritage and our culture. So that's what, again, this is ours right here. That's it. We're going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and then Amen we continue forward forever. I'm out. Check us tonight for MENTELLECT Radio at 10:30. Check out Enra Sister Venzetta's Ethnic American channel. Check me out on MENTELLECT Patreon. MENTELLECT Patreon. Check out all this stuff. Since y'all say I'm not doing MENTELLECT anymore, of course, it's always going to be MENTELLECT. And subscribe to High and Mighty Talks with me, Newbin Menkares, and my beautiful feathered head crown. American Indigenous feathered head crown. That's it. Good night. See y'all at 10:30.